Alrighty, good morning, guys. What is today? March the 8th, and it is a Wednesday, and I hope you guys are having a good morning. Running a little bit late because we had math games at Gerke Elementary School this morning, and so me and Annabelle have been to math games, and I just got back, and so that was fun. We kept calling it Math Wars, but it wasn't Math Wars. It was Math Games. So anyway, today we are in Psalm chapter 35. We're going to be verses 1 through 10. And so let me read it, and we will make a couple observations from it. So it says this. It says, "Contend, Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take up shield and armor, and arise and come to my aid. Brandish spears and javelins against those who pursue me. Say to me, I am your salvation. May those who seek my life be disgraced and put to shame. May those who plot my ruin be turned back in dismay. May they be like chaff before the wind, with the angel of the Lord driving them away. May their path be dark and slippery, with the angel of the Lord pursuing them. And since they hide their net for me without cause dug a pit for me, may ruin overtake them by surprise. May the net they hid entangle them. May they fall into the pit, not to their ruin. Then my soul will rejoice in the Lord and delight in his salvation, and my whole being will exclaim, who is like you, Lord? You rescue the poor from those too strong for them, the poor and needy from those who rob them." So David's a little teed off this morning, it looks like, doesn't it? He is obviously once again struggling with the injustice that apparently he's experienced. And remember that David is a warrior. He is constantly in battle, trying to secure the borders of Israel. And with that kind of responsibility comes opposition, and he's obviously facing that. He's obviously dealing with that. He is, and he's calling out for the Lord to protect him, to take up a shield and armor, arise and come to his aid. And so David's really dealing with the struggle of leadership. He's dealing with the struggle of people being apparently unloyal. He's dealing with the hardships of life. What caught my attention was verse 7. He says, "Since they hid their nets for me without cause, and without cause dug a pit for me." So David's not only dealing with opposition, but he's dealing with injustice, in the sense that whoever these people are that he's talking about, they're really going after him, and apparently they don't have a good reason. Like, it's just totally unjust. And I find that terribly interesting, because isn't that sometimes how life goes? Sometimes things happen and just not fair. And in this passage, David is crying out for God to protect him and to set things straight, to bring justice to what he's dealing with. But what it reminded me of, or what it had me thinking about as well, is that you and I, we live on the other side of the cross. And so David is not alone in dealing with the injustice of the world. He's not alone in dealing with the persecution. And you and I aren't alone in dealing with the hardships and injustices of the world either, because Jesus is one as well who dealt with those things. He was not immune to pain and suffering. It wasn't kept from him, but he faced it. And it reminded me of what his brother James says in James chapter 1. James says this. He says, "Consider it all joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." James says that when you and I face troubles, like the troubles David is facing here, we ought to consider it joy. Because even though God doesn't choose pain and suffering for his people, he can use it. And he can use it to grow us. I'm a football coach, and one of the things we talk about from time to time is the grind, in the sense that practices and weight rooms and conditioning and all of those things, it is hard. It's a grind. But the growth happens in the grind. That the glory and all those types of things can happen during the game, but growth happens in the grind. And that James says that when we face those kinds of trials, consider it joy, because we can lean into the grace that God has for us, that we can identify with Jesus, who did not turn from suffering but faced it, and that it's in the hardships that we can actually grow closer to God, leading to a place of maturity and to a place of completion. And so, I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. That's kind of what jumped out at me this morning, is just simply growth doesn't happen in those high places. Growth happens, like my dad always says, that growth doesn't happen on the mountaintop. It happens in the valley. And I think that's just true. So today's Wednesday. It's Welcoming Wednesday, so be welcoming to somebody today. And it's always so important just to have a smile on your face and to be kind to people. They often live very isolated lives. So be kind today, be loving, be welcoming, and think about what that challenge is perhaps for you today. In what ways are you facing hardships, and in what ways can God use those hardships to grow your character or your capacity today in being his disciple? So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.